Before you make a single decision about Mexico, you've already made the most important one. You've decided what Mexico is. Maybe it's the paradise version: turquoise water, colonial squares, the best food on the continent, a country so alive it makes everywhere else feel slightly muted. Maybe it's the other version, the one built from news cycles and State Department warnings and that conversation at a dinner party where someone said they wouldn't go back. Most people carry both versions simultaneously, which creates a specific kind of paralysis. They book the trip, but contain it. They choose the resort because the resort feels like a compromise between wanting to go and being afraid to actually arrive. That compromise is the most expensive mistake in Mexican travel. Not because resorts are bad. Because the thing that makes Mexico extraordinary is precisely the thing the resort is designed to protect you from. Here's what's actually true. Mexico is the most visited country in Latin America and one of the most misread destinations on Earth. Not because information about it is scarce. There is more content about Mexico than most travelers could consume in a year. But because the two dominant narratives about the country, paradise and danger, are so loud, so omnipresent, so mutually reinforcing that they crowd out anything more specific, more true, or more useful. The traveler who arrives in Mexico having absorbed both narratives doesn't see the country. They see a screen they brought from home, projected onto whatever is in front of them. That screen is what this is about, not the logistics. The screen. The safety conversation needs to happen first because it is the one that does the most damage when it goes wrong in either direction. Mexico has a genuine security situation. Specific regions, specific corridors, specific routes have serious problems with organized crime that are real and should not be minimized. The U.S. State Department advisories exist for a reason and are worth reading carefully before any trip, not to be frightened into staying home, but because they are geographically specific in a way that the general international impression of Mexico almost never is. The advisory for Tamaulipas is not the advisory for Yucatan. The situation in parts of Guerrero is not the situation in Oaxaca City. Mexico is a country the size of Western Europe, and treating its security situation as uniform is roughly equivalent to canceling a trip to Portugal because of crime statistics in Naples. But here's the trap on the other side. The resort zone exists partly as a response to this fear, and it works as a fear management product more effectively than it works as a travel product. A week inside the Cancun hotel zone, or the Riviera Maya all-inclusive corridor is safe, comfortable, and almost completely disconnected from the country it sits inside. The ruins are an hour away, and most guests never go. The colonial city of Merida is 90 minutes away, and most guests have never heard of it. The cenotes, the underwater river system that runs beneath the entire Yucatan Peninsula, one of the genuinely otherworldly natural environments on Earth, are accessible in half a day from almost any resort on the Caribbean coast, and the majority of visitors leave without knowing they exist. The resort is not a gateway to Mexico. It is a substitute for it. Understanding that distinction before you book changes every decision that follows. What the screen also does, and this is the part that affects even the travelers who make it past the resort zone, is flatten Mexico's complexity into a greatest hits reel that has almost nothing to do with what the country actually is. Mexico City is the clearest example of this, because Mexico City is one of the great cities of the world by almost any measure: size, cultural output, architectural depth, food culture, museum quality, energy, and it remains, for a large percentage of international travelers, a place they fly over on the way to somewhere else. The Museo Nacional de Antropología contains the most significant collection of pre-Columbian artifacts anywhere on Earth and sits inside a building that is itself a masterwork of 20th century architecture. Teotihuacan, 40 kilometers outside the city, was at its peak one of the largest urban centers in the world, and the question of who built it remains genuinely unresolved. The neighborhoods of Roma, Condesa, and Coyoacán operate at a cultural register that rivals anything in Europe, at a fraction of the cost and with a fraction of the tourism pressure. Most international visitors to Mexico City spend 2 days, see the Zócalo and Frida Kahlo's house, and leave. 2 days in Mexico City is an orientation. 5 days is the beginning of an understanding. The city is not a stop on the way to the beach. For a significant number of people who give it enough time, it becomes the reason they come back. Oaxaca does something similar to people who find it. The food alone. Mole negro that takes days to make and contains 30 ingredients. Tlayudas served on clay plates in markets that have been operating since before European contact. Mezcal produced in villages an hour from the city in a way that has nothing to do with the bottles in airport duty-free. Would justify the trip. But Oaxaca also has a contemporary indigenous art scene that draws serious collectors from New York and London, a calendar of festivals and ceremonies that runs almost continuously through the year, and a surrounding landscape of ruins and villages that most visitors never reach because 2 days in the city center already feels like a lot, and the schedule says it's time to move. This is the pattern. Mexico keeps offering more depth, and the traveler keeps moving before the depth has time to arrive. Not because they're incurious, because the mental model they brought with them has a fixed shape and the actual country doesn't fit inside it. The food question deserves its own space because it is where the gap between the Mexico most tourists experience and the Mexico that actually exists is widest, and the gap is almost entirely self-imposed. Mexican cuisine is a UNESCO-recognized cultural heritage, not as a courtesy, as a genuine acknowledgement of a culinary tradition built across centuries, across dozens of regional lineages, with a complexity and a regional specificity that means cochinita pibil from the Yucatan and mole negro from Oaxaca and birria from Jalisco are not variations on a theme. They are distinct culinary cultures that happen to exist within the same national border. Most tourists eat a version of Mexican food that has been adjusted toward international expectations, recognizable, inoffensive, and almost entirely disconnected from any of this. The correction is not complicated. It requires only the willingness to eat in places that were not designed for you. The taqueria, where the menu is on a chalkboard and the salsa bar has 5 options you didn't ask for. The market stall where the woman has been making one dish since 6 in the morning and will sell out by noon. The mezcaleria in Oaxaca, where the owner pours from unlabeled bottles and explains the difference between varieties in a way that makes everything you thought you knew about the spirit feel like an introduction. The hygiene anxiety that stops many tourists from eating street food in Mexico is real and significantly overstated. The high turnover at a busy stall at lunchtime means the food is fresher than most sit-down restaurants. The locals eating next to you are the only review that matters. There is one more thing the screen does that is harder to name and more consequential than any of the logistical mistakes. It makes Mexico into a backdrop. The traveler who has already decided what Mexico is arrives and collects evidence for that decision. The turquoise water confirms the paradise version. A street that looks slightly unfamiliar after dark confirms the danger version. The colonial square at golden hour goes directly into the archive of things that look exactly as expected. Nothing surprises them because they are not really looking. They are recognizing. The travelers who leave Mexico most changed, the ones who come back, who reorganize their sense of what a country can be, who describe specific meals and specific conversations and specific moments of complete disorientation in a way that sounds less like a trip report and more like something that actually happened to them, almost always describe the same thing in different words. At some point they stopped recognizing and started seeing. The screen came down. The country came through. That transition doesn't require a special itinerary or a particular destination or the right amount of money. It requires arriving with enough uncertainty about what Mexico is to let the actual answer land. The country will provide the answer. It does this reliably for anyone who stays long enough and looks carefully enough to receive it. The screen is the only thing in the way. And you built it, which means you can also take it down. Thanks for watching. If you found this useful, smash that like button and subscribe to When to Travel. We're all about helping you make smarter travel decisions. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. And hey, if you think your friends need this, share it. Comment below with your next destination or your biggest travel question. I'm reading all of them. Let's go.